Esther's brave choice. If she hadn't risked it all, her people would be gone. In the shining halls of a Persian palace, there was a queen who once lived quietly in the shadow of loss. Esther had been an orphan girl, raised by her cousin Mordecai, and by God's strange mercy, she became queen in a land far from her own people. But one day, peace in the palace was broken by a terrible decree. Haman, proud and furious, had convinced the king to destroy every Jew in the kingdom. When Mordecai heard the news, he tore his clothes and sent a message straight to Esther. She must go to the king and plead for her people. Esther's heart trembled. Everyone knew the law. No one could enter the king's presence uninvited. To step forward without being called could mean death. For a moment, fear sat heavily on her shoulders. She was queen, yes, but she was still one woman standing before an empire. What if the king refused her? What if Haman's hatred won? What if she spoke too late? Then Mordecai sent the words that still echo through history. Who knows but that you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Those words awakened her. Esther did not rush in pride. She prepared in faith. She asked Mordecai to gather the Jews in the city and fast with her for 3 days and 3 nights. No food, no water, only prayer, humility, and hope in the God of her fathers. In those quiet hours, while the palace glittered with gold and threats, heaven was at work. Then Esther rose. She clothed herself in royal garments and walked toward the inner court. Every step was a battle against fear. The guards watched. The stones gleamed beneath her feet. The king sat on his throne, distant and powerful. Esther stood still, and the silence seemed to stretch like eternity. Would the king lift his scepter, or would judgment fall? At last, the king looked up and extended the golden scepter. Esther lived. She invited the king and Haman to a banquet, then another. Patiently, wisely, she waited for the right moment, because courage is not only act, it is obedience guided by God's timing. At the second banquet, Esther finally revealed the truth: her life, her people, the hidden wickedness of Haman. The king was outraged, Haman was undone, and the decree of death was overturned. The same night that seemed darkest became the beginning of deliverance. What Haman meant for destruction, God turned into rescue. Esther, who had once seemed powerless, became the instrument through which an entire nation was spared. Question: why did Esther risk everything when she could have stayed safe in the palace? Answer: because she understood that safety without obedience is not true peace, and that God may place his children in hard places so they can become brave vessels of his rescue. Esther trusted that her life was not her own alone. It was given for a purpose beyond comfort. So when fear tells you to stay silent, remember Esther. When obedience feels costly, remember the queen who fasted, prayed, and stepped forward anyway. God still calls ordinary people to extraordinary courage, and he still uses faithful hearts to protect, heal, and save. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more Bible faith adventure. Lesson: God can turn one courageous act of faith into deliverance for many. For such a time as this is often the very moment he calls us to trust him.